Howdy folks, my name is Chris Stevens, better known as Gator Chris. I'm a nuisance control hunter and a licensed wildlife educator for Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. All that said, I catch alligators and educate with alligators and other wildlife in urban areas around Houston, Texas. We have both Harris and Fort Bend County as our territories, primarily so we could get called out 24/7, 8 months out of the year during alligator season to handle a nuisance alligator. I have been a nuisance alligator control hunter for about 5 years now. The program came into existence about 5 or 6 years ago, and I was in the first or second class. I have been working with alligators for over 20 years. 20 years ago, I was part of a ranch, a wildlife ranch, and an alligator ate a duck dog, and the owners told me to figure out what to do. And they were protected back then, and you had to go through Texas Parks and Wildlife and a lengthy process and paperwork, and that pulled me into the alligator program and learned how to handle that animal. And then as I grew over those 20 years, I did population control for that ranch and many others. So I learned, to catch alligators that way, and I got into the nuisance program, and after catching a couple, I started to realize I had to do it different. I had to start with education, I had to start with teaching, I had to start with determining if the habitat was suitable to leave the animal in, and if it was, are the people able to be educated to keep them safe? And depending on the answers to those questions, that guide how I started doing my day-to-day life. And fortunately, came across Christy, and her philosophy was much the same, and we've been using that same philosophy and forming Gator Squad and everything since. Before I became an alligator catcher, I've done quite a few things. I've been in the United States Army. I went 3 days after I graduated high school and became Army medic first, and then an X-ray tech in the Army. Hoorah! Fort Sam Houston is where I was stationed for my medical training, and Fort Jackson, South Carolina is where I spent the biggest part of my time stationed at a hospital. And that X-ray and medic career from the military turned into a 20-year healthcare career in which I managed very large healthcare companies. I was a partner in a healthcare company for a long time. And I transitioned out about 2 years ago, gave up the healthcare world when Obamacare came in and regulation got crazy. Alligators were so much easier to deal with. I'd rather go out and deal with an angry alligator than one employee. I'd rather deal with a dozen angry alligators, 200 dozen, than one, crazy employee trying to argue about whatever. I was in management for a long time in healthcare, and both policies and people drove me out of it. So I'm very happy that I'm managing animals and chasing alligators and deer and hogs on a regular basis and trying to bring some conservation, coexistence, and education to my contracted areas around Harris, Fort Bend County, which is Houston. We have 6 million people live in the greater Houston area, living all around our animals. So we have a regular occurrence of people and animals interacting with each other. So how do we make that as safe as possible and provide the training and education so the animals can be left in place to do their job like God intended them to in the ecosystem? Some people ask me if I get a rush whenever I'm catching alligators, if I'm an adrenaline junkie. I skydive, I'm a shark fisherman, I'm a cave diver, I'm a spear fisherman. I love activities that require you to be in the moment, in the now. Extreme amount of focus, right onto the animal or the skydive or the shark or the atmosphere, the ecosystem that you're in at that moment requires 100% concentration, or you make a mistake and meet Jesus, which isn't a bad day, right? It's not a bad day at all. So that's why I can move through a lot of what I do without really worrying or being fearful. I'm not scared of the alligators. I'm not scared of jumping out of airplanes. I'm not scared of sharks. I'm not scared of any man or beast really at all. You just got to stay focused, and you got to stay in the now and be able to evolve and change your decision making based on what's going on in front of you. So I love the skydive. There's nothing finer than jumping out of an airplane and doing an arch backflip into a 200-mile-an-hour head-down skydive, flocking with some friends. It's insane. Nothing comes close to that, except maybe catching an alligator with Gator Girl in these neighborhoods, and it's me and her, and we're wrestling these things back and forth, and we're both extreme focused and catching this thing without even talking. We interact and we talk through just body language and knowing what she's doing. So do I get the same level of excitement? I don't know. It's up there, but what I get from it is more fulfilling to me. It's more spiritual. It's more humbling. It's more allows me to do what I am hardwired by God to do, which is catch animals and fly through the air like Iron Man and, kiss sharks over coral reefs, because I try to bring education to all of those arenas, right? I'm not doing these things to be cool. I do them because it's fun, and I like to educate and teach people that they can do these things as well. Skydiving is becoming a mainstream sport. Alligators are becoming a topic across the United States, and people are starting to respect sharks and understand their place in the ecosystem. So, I just try to continually bring conservation, education, and awareness to the things that I participate in. These happen to be high adrenaline causing activities, and that adrenaline, whenever you stay focused and you stay in the now with the alligator, or you stay focused and you stay in the now with leaving the airplane, you can't worry about the ground until you're about to hit it. So when I leave the airplane, I got 3 or so minutes before the ground's coming. So you stay focused in the tricks, and you stay focused in staying safe, and stay focused in flying your slot and doing the things you're supposed to. And then you pitch and your parachute comes out, and you get to fly that thing around, and that's when you start to plan your descent and your dive. And you don't worry about the ground till you flare. So and that's your brakes, your air brakes, right? So, I get a rush in just everyday adventures, but the ones that require me extreme focus, concentration, like alligators and skydiving and shark dives, bring me the most fulfillment, and they're spiritual, which is why I do them. A lot of people want to infer and say that I'm an adrenaline junkie. It is addicting. It's rather addicting to get that feeling. It's rather addicting to be on the edges of life, where a lot of people won't go. They're scared to go. But Will Smith recently said it best. Some of the greatest things in life, some of the best things in life that we can experience are on just the other side of our fear. So if we're able to step outside of our comfort zone a little bit and experience something that we weren't quite ready or didn't quite think we were ready, but we push ourselves to that fear and we grow as a person, and then we do something as amazing as skydiving, jumping out of an airplane, and you realize it's one of the most blissful times in your life, and you're happy and you're free and you're flying through the clouds like you've dreamed since you were a little kid. Man, just on the other side of fear, just on the other side of getting out of that airplane, some people are terrified. They're like, oh my God, but they leave the plane, fly through the air, land on the ground, best thing they ever did. A lot of people like me decide to get licensed and do it 300 or 400 times in a year. Some people do it once or twice in their life, and that's enough. It's okay, but everybody should do it once. You got to feel the adrenaline. You got to feel what it means to fly through the air. And if you become a junkie as a result of it, based on the adrenaline, I could have a whole lot worse habits than that. So I'm okay with being hooked on adrenaline and being hooked on the edges of life where a lot of others won't go, because I get to educate and teach the rest of the people when I come back from those edges what it's like out there. So, it's worth it to me. Like I said, until you experience it, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. You get in those moments, and then you come out of them, and you're victorious at the end of some of those days. You've caught 6 or 8 alligators with your partner, and you've done some big skydives, and you have a good day, and you're just mentally drained, physically drained, and you just feel like it was one of the most epic days that you could have, and realize it was just a Tuesday. And you go out on Wednesday and you do it all over again. That's the best thing about this job. Get to experience adrenaline and the edges of life on a regular basis, and get to come back from those edges and teach you at home and everybody that's willing to listen about what we do. Then I feel like I've done something in this lifetime to change the nation's perception on alligators and teach that they are great animals that need to serve in the ecosystem. Much like we just learned about wolves in Yellowstone. A big study was just done over a 30-year period with apex wolves being reintroduced, and now those wolves have balanced Yellowstone, and all the other animal species are flourishing, and all because the deer were eating down the grasses too much, changing the shape of the river. Go read about it. It's phenomenal. Same things that happen with alligators in local ecosystems. Let them get in there and do their job and eat the rats and the snakes. That way me and Gator Girl can come in, get our fix of adrenaline, and get those alligators out and teach people, kind of what needs to go on. That's a joke. I love to be able to leave the animals in place. I do and can get my fix of adrenaline by jumping out of planes. It doesn't have to be from catching alligators if they're good. Thanks for listening to us, folks. Gator Chris, over and out.